This next NHL season is going to be absolutely wild, and to celebrate that, I'll be making my 10 biggest bold predictions for the 2023-24 NHL season. But what do I see as the craziest things to happen this next year in the NHL? Well, make sure you watch till the end for all the picks, every single one of them, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this. If you're enjoying it, it really helps the channel out, and with all the content being released throughout the year, you won't want to miss a thing. Now, folks, you guys know I love to go spicy, I like to go bold, and today's video is not an exception to that rule. Let's just get straight into it, because with today's video and how spicy my takes are, I need some time to explain myself. Now let's start today's video off with the first bold prediction for the 2023-24 NHL season, and this is a player that I don't think a lot of people are getting enough credit to, especially in the top defenseman race, and that is Mikhail Sergachev. My bold prediction is that by the time this next season is over, Mikhail Sergachev will be widely regarded as a top 10 defenseman. Now, what's interesting is his career progression. You see at 25 years old, right in the prime of his career, especially as a defenseman, but he's been playing so long in the NHL, it's hard to even think that he is still 25 years old. But this last year, we really saw him take a big step offensively. 64 points in 79 games, and that was really the big jump that we have been waiting to see with Sergachev for so long now. Now, this was actually a late addition onto this list. I didn't originally have it, but doing my usual daily research into NHL stats, I was coming across a lot with Tampa Bay, and interestingly, last year, we kind of saw a little bit of a passing of the torch with Mikhail Sergachev and Victor Hedman. With Hedman, he got 49 points in 76 games, and you can see Sergachev got 64 points in 79 games, had more even strength points, more power play points, and actually had more average time on ice, not just in the regular season, but also in the playoffs. In the playoffs, it was an even bigger difference, I think by a couple of minutes of average time on ice. Mikhail Sergachev wasn't just the leader in offense, I think the much better D player as well last year, but also had the biggest time on ice, which was pretty surprising to me, because when you go and list, of course, everywhere with the lines and what you see, of course, you got Victor Hedman as the first pairing lefty, with Mikhail Sergachev as the second pairing lefty. But last year, we saw Sergachev get more responsibility, look better than Hedman in those minutes, and I think this next year we're going to see an even bigger gap in the time on ice and a lot more recognition coming Sergachev's way. What's super interesting is that I think there's already a case to be made that Sergachev is in the top 20, top 15 among D, and if he has another great season like he had in 2023, I think there's a good chance that a lot of people have him above Victor Hedman in next year's defenseman rankings, which is wild to think about, folks. Now going on to my second spicy bold prediction for the 2023-24 NHL season. Now let's go on to the Montreal Canadiens here, and for my second bold prediction, I think Mike Matheson will get Norris votes in 2024. Now, when I say Norris votes, I mean he'll get, a voting inside the top 5. I don't think he'll get votes to be the number 1 guy, but I think Mike Matheson could be one of the biggest reasons why the Habs maybe get better next year. Now, we'll see how much better. I don't think it's going to be substantial, but I think Matheson being fully healthy will be huge. We saw what he did with Montreal this last year in 48 games, 8 goals, 26 assists, 34 points. That offense really rising to a humongous level, even strength-wise as well, looking great. And that defense maybe taking a little bit of a step back, but I think Matheson's in a really interesting position. This next year in Montreal, we saw how amazing his first year was when he played. That health is obviously a big thing, but if he does stay healthy, I can absolutely see him being in maybe that top tier of NHLD next year. Maybe not putting up elite point totals, but again, with what he was able to do last year on that Montreal offensive team, that's pretty impressive. We'll see if he's able to stick with it, but I think he absolutely could get some votes here. And you look at the Norris Trophy voting last year, 18 different guys got votes, and I could absolutely see Matheson being in that lower tier, 18 to 12 perhaps, definitely not being in the top 5 by any means, but having a really impressive season for Montreal, really solidifying himself as that top D. He already was last year when he played, but this year, for a full healthy season, I think people will take notice. Now heading on to my third bold prediction for the 2023-24 season. This one might honestly be my spiciest for some people. I don't know how spicy this actually is, but I feel like after last year's playoffs, we might see this carry over to this next season. For my third bold prediction, I think Jeremy Swayman will outperform Linus Ullmark this next year. Now this one I know was especially hot because, of course, Linus Ullmark winning the Vezina Trophy this last year and how impressive he was, how consistent he was for Boston was a big reason why they were so good in the regular season. But to me, Jeremy Swayman is in a prime position to really break out in a big way. Even though this last year, we really saw him rise to the occasion, a .920 save percentage in 37 games, continuing to get better and better. But of course, you saw Linus Ullmark last season having a .938 save percentage in 49 games, a a 46-1 record. I know that looks unbeatable, but to me with Jeremy Swayman, he was already great last year, and I could see him getting more games this next year too, getting a little bit of stress off Linus Ullmark. Now, here's the important thing I want to say, because I do think Linus Ullmark will still be the starter for Boston either way, but I see Swayman just barely outperforming him, maybe getting the same amount of games-ish, but maybe getting to that 40 game plateau. That could be what we see. To me, though, with Swayman, I think we're going to see a great year out of him. Whether he becomes the starter is another question. I think Ullmark still has that job safe, but I do think in maybe the more limited games, I think Swayman comes to the occasion, has one of the better save percentages in the entire NHL. That Boston defense is still elite, and no matter what, that's still going to be the best tandem in the league. Next up for my fourth bold prediction, this one is another goaltending job prediction, and this one I've talked about before, but I'm so sure about this. I've been never more sure about a bold prediction in my life. Going on to number 4, I think Joel Hofer will steal Jordan Binnington's starter job. To me, this is one that I'm so sure of, and also as another part on top of this, I think he will finish top 5 in Calder voting. I'm a big fan of Joel Hofer, have been over the last couple of years. He's been steadily getting better and more consistent as a prospect. I think this year is the year we see him truly rise up the ranks and become St. Louis' starter in the end. 23 years old and still relatively young for a goalie, but huge size at 6'5", 180 pounds, a perfect size for a young goaltender. And you can see what he was able to do in the AHL, just dominance all throughout, great at the World Championships, and a 905 save percentage in 6 games for the Blues, which considering the Blues defense last year was a miraculous feat as a first-timer. Also getting a 3-1-1 record doesn't hurt at all. And you look at Jordan Binnington, and really, I mean, you could say that Joel Hofer is better than Binnington already. And that I don't think is a spicy take, because Hofer has a lot of that, I guess, reputation, while Binnington does not. But I feel like St. Louis is a team that might be a little bit stingy and might still want to give Binnington the starter job, even though he doesn't. But I think Hofer is going to make sure that he wins it in time. I mean, you see what Binnington has done the past couple of years, a 901 save percentage, an 894 save percentage. Yes, has St. Louis' defense not been great? Absolutely. But he has not been carrying the load whatsoever. Hofer, I think, has the opportunity to do that as a young rookie, and I think he's going to be great in his first full year. Now let's get past the goaltenders, go into some forward predictions here. And at number 5, I'm going to go to an interesting one here involving Columbus. I have Johnny Gaudreau getting past the 90-point mark once again. Now, to me with Johnny Gaudreau, it's interesting just how his career has been, just kind of being on and off, elite then not elite, but still last year in Columbus, 74 points in 80 games, I think is a lot more impressive than people gave him credit for. I think he was still great in that department and was carrying Columbus in so many ways. And this next year, with Laine, with Adam Fantilli hopefully as his first line center, I mean Columbus has a great mixture there, and Gaudreau is going to benefit a lot from that. As Laine hopefully also has another big season, hopefully gets past that point per game mark offensively, I think Gaudreau is also going to benefit from that a lot, and also just Columbus getting better as an offensive unit. But Gaudreau is still going to be driving that bus a lot. I think hopefully with Fantilli as his first line center though, driving it a little bit less and getting a few more points like he deserved last year. And you know, I'm still going to say it. I know people say that I had Gaudreau too high at having him number 3 in my left wing rankings, but he's still extremely talented, was just the only man offensively really doing as much as he did last year and even close to it. And again, on Columbus's offense, got 53 assists. I just still don't think people are talking about how good he was still last year. And I think a rebound season, especially in his overall game, is due as well. Now going into my 6th bold prediction for the 2023-24 season, this one's a little bit sad, but I think it's pretty realistic with what we have with this team going forward. For my 6th bold prediction, I think Vasily Podkolzin will have another extremely disappointing season in 2024. Of course, the 10th overall pick by the Canucks in 2019, he hasn't really progressed as consistently as Vancouver would have liked, and the lack of ice time isn't exactly helping him either. He got 26 points in his rookie season, then dropped to 7 points last year in 2023, but considering the right side of their forward group with Kuzmenko, with Garland, with Besser, there's just not a lot of opportunity for Podkolzin to step into the lineup. He could be on the 4th line, maybe, but he's still going to be around that 10 to 11 time on ice per game type of mark, and that's just not enough for him to really do much damage. And I see this same kind of stagnation happening next year, where he'll probably get a little bit of time in the AHL, maybe even starting in the AHL. We'll obviously get a taste in the NHL, but not as much as he really needs to succeed, unfortunately. But hey, if the Canucks wanted a bottom 6 grinder with their 10th overall pick, they're doing a great job developing him that way. Now, I was about to start this next segment on the next bold prediction, and I realized it's another bold prediction about another goaltending tandem getting completely changed, but I swear this one's interesting too. For my 7th bold prediction, this one is fascinating. I have Logan Thompson becoming the starter, becoming Vegas' starter again over Adin Hill this next year. Now, this one is interesting. At 26 years old, I still have a lot of hope in Logan Thompson, and if he never got injured, he would probably be in the top 3 of the Calder race. In 37 games last year for Vegas, got a .265 goals against average, a .915 save percentage. He was really the reason why Vegas started off so well and really kept the ground running. And to me, I don't think he got enough credit for just how much he changed Vegas' outlook. We were all heading into the season wondering what that goaltending might look like. I still had them as a playoff team, but many people didn't because of their goaltending. Logan Thompson, though, came in, instilled some confidence, and I think as a fully healthy player next year, he could be the starter. He could be starter worthy. And you look at Adin Hill and what he was able to do, of course, in the playoffs, just an unbelievable run, a .932 save percentage in 16 games there. But you can see in a much smaller sample size for Vegas last year in the regular season, got the same save percentage with a .915, but his play before that wasn't exactly elite. We'll see what he's able to do as, of course, coming off that Stanley Cup win, but to me, I think there's a pretty solid chance that Logan Thompson has, I guess, more talent in goal in that way. Of course, he's a little bit younger. We'll see, though. It'll be a pretty big battle, though it looks like to be a pretty underrated goalie tandem next year. Going on to my 8th bold prediction, though, for the 2024 season, this one I like a lot. We were talking about in the SDPN season previews. Watch those if you haven't already. One for every team. Highly recommended. We were talking about it, though, in the San Jose Sharks preview, how I think they'll be the worst team in the league. But the biggest reason for that, and to go even a step further, is because I think they will have the most goals allowed out of any NHL team in the salary cap era. Now, that sounds crazy, right? But actually, in terms of recent memory, the 5 teams that allowed the most goals against in the cap era have all come in the last couple of years, with Anaheim and Columbus being the 2 teams that have allowed the most since 2006, with 329 goals and 335 goals against, respectively. But you look at this Sharks team, they're going to be pretty decent offensively. You got great options like Hurdle, like Logan Shore, Anthony Duclair going to be pretty underrated. We'll see what Zdeno and William Eklund do. But then you go down and see what they're cooking on defense. And with Erik Karlsson gone, even though you don't lose a lot of pure defense, I think you lose a lot of that we're talking about offense being the best defense, and you lose a lot of offense with Erik Karlsson being gone. You look at it, and I would say Matt Benning is the only one that's proved to put up great defensive results. Maybe that's even too far, even though I like Matt Benning a lot. You look at this defense, and it is brutal. It is crappy. It is awful. And considering Vlasic's just garbage at this point in his career, Jan Ruda is basically nothing right now. Same thing with Mario Ferraro. It's going to be awful. And then you go on to the goaltending, which might be the worst in the league. Probably the worst in the league. Kaapo Kähkönen has been brutal with the Sharks so far, and that defense is going to be giving him any favors. Mackenzie Blackwood has been healthy for like 2 games the past 5 years, and in those games, he's been pretty bad, pretty horrible. I have no faith in that defense. Zero less faith in that goaltending. And to me, I think if there's any team to get that top spot from the Ducks last year, I think we could see the Sharks allow 340 plus goals this next year. It could be that bad. Now, going from one team prediction to the next for my 9th and second to last bold prediction for the 2024 season. This is one that I've had for a while, but I just want to preach it and basically break it all down right here, right now. For number 9, I think the Nashville Predators will make the 2024 NHL playoffs. Now, when I say that, let me explain myself. One, the Central in the middle is crowded, but I feel like Nashville is in a great position to overcome that. First, you have Andrew Brunette coming in as their head coach, and to me, that is an amazing hire. He has proved with New Jersey, with Florida, to put up amazing results, and to me, I think he's going to be exactly what the Preds needed, especially on that offense. They were only like a couple of points out from the playoffs last year after a lot of injuries, a lot of inconsistencies, and that's incredible to see. I do love the additions of Ryan O'Reilly. Hopefully Gustav Nyquist can stay healthy as well. but even if Gustav Nyquist doesn't, I mean, their young core offensively is fantastic. With Evangelista, Novak, who was supreme last year, is only getting better. Parson, Cody Glass, Philip Tomasino. These guys are going to have major impacts next year. And you're going to have a fully healthy Philip Forsberg, which they didn't have last season. That is a humongous difference, and I don't think a lot of people are realizing how good healthy Philip Forsberg can be and how much of a difference he can make. That's going to be huge for them. You look at the defense, which to me gets a little bit better with Luke Shen, maybe having Tyson Barrie for the full season. That'll be good. I think we'll see a rise out of Dante Fabro and Roman Josi still being an elite D. And then you go, of course, go on to the goaltending, which carried them a lot last year to getting so close to the playoffs. I think it'll still continue to be elite with UC Saros, maybe even winning the Vezina Trophy next year if the Preds make it. I hope they do. I hope he does just for that. Kevin Lankinen, one of the best backups in the league last year. I think he'll carry the over into next year too. That goaltending is great, and the coaching I think could take them a long way. They were super close last season. That last Preds team was way closer than people realize. I think this Preds team is better in almost every single way. You might not have as good offensive pure punch. Obviously, Duchesne and Johansson loses a few points here and there, but the structure difference I think will really make that difference. And to me, they still have some elite players here that could carry them to the top. But now going on to my final and most spicy hot take. This one will probably take a lot to explain, but let's get into it. At number 10, I think this is going to be a very long one. Gabriel Vilardi is going to impress so much this next year that the Jets end up trading Mark Scheifele at this year's deadline. Now, Mark Scheifele, we were already talking about trade rumors surrounding him, but he has 1 year left on his deal and will be a rental option for a lot of teams out there. I think for the Jets, they're going to be solid, but not good enough to make the playoffs. And I think at some point, the Jets are going to realize that and want to get a little bit younger, especially at the center position, which is kind of what they did a little bit in the Pierre-Luc Dubois deal, acquiring Vilardi in the first place. But at 24 years old, I think Vilardi is going to make a major impact this next year. You saw what he did with the Kings last year, having really a huge breakout season. 41 points, 23 goals in 63 games. I think for Winnipeg, he's going to get a lot of opportunity on that second line to start things out, but I think there's a chance that he could get a lot more responsibility all around, impress a lot for Winnipeg, and really show some good signs of being a future first line center for them. Maybe not the most complete, but definitely a guy that could fill that role. And for a potential trade option, this is where it gets interesting. Now, the Jets don't really have a lot of options for teams that I think would want Mark Scheifele right now. The Boston Bruins could be one. We talked about them before, but I think the Minnesota Wild make a lot of sense if the Jets can guarantee that they'll just use Scheifele as a rental, which I think is pretty confirmed with Minnesota's cap issues. I think they'll still want to be going for it this next year. Scheifele would be an excellent add and would finally give them a first-line center offensively that can really get the most out of Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello. I think that'll be a huge priority for them. And for the Winnipeg Jets, you get Marco Rossi, a young 21-year-old center who still has a lot to give. And I think under Gabriel Vilardi and maybe Adam Lowry, maybe on that third line center position, could really develop well there. You also get defenseman Ryan O'Rourke, who the Wild drafted in the first few rounds a few years back. Was a little bit of a slower progressor, but in the AHL right now as a 21-year-old, could be a bottom pair guy for them, and a 2024 first-round pick. Now, to me, I think with what we've seen, at least with rentals recently, you don't get as much value as you'd maybe love. I think for the Jets, you'd want to get maybe a better defensive prospect than Ryan O'Rourke, maybe a David Spacek perhaps, but I just don't know if the Minnesota Wild are going to want to make that happen, especially within the division. I think the Jets might have to get a little creative here, even trading within the division, but Marco Rossi, we saw, of course, the Jets' priority, trying to get a little bit younger. I think that's the best way to go while trying to retool on the fly. Marco Rossi will be a really interesting bet, especially if he's able to prove a little bit this next year. And I think the Jets could really use a player like that for the future on top of Gabriel Vilardi as well. And the Wild getting Mark Scheifele would be exactly what they need for a playoff run. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of this mock trade? Do you think it's a good one? Do you think it could actually happen, or do you think it could look different? Let us know down below. And of course, let me know all your thoughts on all the bold predictions I talked about today. What do you guys agree with? What do you guys disagree with? And what are your bold predictions for not just your team, but the entire NHL this next year? I want to know all your thoughts down below. Of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. Get the bold predictions out there, and click on this card for all of my predictions and picks content in one playlist. Super bingeable one. Grab some popcorn, watch a bunch of videos there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Drink some water, get some good food, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.